This is KC Sports Tonight.
So that's our KC Sports Tonight animation, and you're here and I'm here, so it must be KC Sports Tonight.
We did it.
In a very, very different setting than when we left you on Friday. Hi, everybody. Scott Reiss, Marleah Campbell, and we are launching into an entirely new endeavor here, KCTV5 Sports. We have taken the KCTV, or the KC Sports Tonight program that hopefully you have come to know and love over the last year and a half, and brought it to the digital age. So, Marleah Campbell, what's it like being in a 2-box instead of on the set downstairs?
Yeah. No, I'm really excited for this. This is kind of a new venture for us, obviously, as you mentioned. First show of the day, first show of this kind of new era. But, this eventually will be available via podcast. You can listen to this in your car, really easily accessible on our app and everything. I'm a big podcast listener myself, so I'm excited for the specific kind of content. I'm a big, listen on my way to work or, on my way to my next shoot. It's just a cool way to get kind of caught up with the news of the day. So it'll be our sports team here. We'll have cool guests. I'm just looking forward to this. I think it'll be a fun conversational setting. It's also a cool way to get listeners involved because we'll have the Facebook Live comments up and that sort of thing. So you can ask us questions, give us your thoughts. So I'm excited. I think this will be a really cool opportunity and kind of a new wave of ways to do things.
Yeah, it's going to be very different. Obviously, it feels very different for us up here, but it's going to be a different style of sports program. We don't yet have the technology and the bells and whistles here that we would have on television to throw in a bunch of sound bites and feature stories and this, that, and the other. It's going to be very conversation-driven, as you alluded to. We also are not allowed to show, and I don't even know how many of the viewers or listeners realize this in terms of video rights for the major sports. Very, very strict. Like, we can show baseball highlights or NFL highlights or NBA highlights on KCTV5 News, no problem. We're not allowed to show them here. We cannot show any video. So it restricts a little bit in terms of what we are allowed to do, but it also is an opportunity for you to see our faces a whole lot more. So isn't that really, doesn't that make it all worthwhile?
I think another cool thing about this too is, just kind of in the ways of different media being delivered. In television, things are very tight time-wise. I did a story about, which we'll talk about this, but a former Welsh rugby star was at rookie minicamp. He signed a 3-year deal, so this was kind of his first time getting reps with the Chiefs. But that story was 1.5 minutes, and that was, as long as it was going to be. But on this platform, we can talk forever. So
we'll give you at least 1:40 on this
minimum.
Yes.
But no, this is a cool chance to kind of talk about what we saw behind the scenes and stuff. A lot of the workout phases of the off season right now up until training camp are closed to the public, media only, so we can come on here and tell you what we saw. So a little ways to go behind the scenes and to get our thoughts on something that we saw that day.
All right, so just a glimpse behind the curtain here. If you see me staring away from the camera for some length of time, it means I'm trying to figure out the technology involved in this, which, suffice it to say, is very, very new to yours truly. It's like learning a new language. So I'm going to press this button, and there you go. Now you can see
my heart stopped when you said, I'm going to push this button.
Because you never know what might happen. And, in fact, watch this. Hey, looky there. So now we're officially talking Chiefs. And Marleah, good to have you on the broadcast because you were actually at rookie minicamp, Saturday and today. So 2 of the 3 days, correct?
Yep. Yeah, Sunday and today. Yep.
Sunday and today, okay. Yep. All right, so give us the lowdown. What'd you see? What'd you love?
Yeah, Neil was there. Neil Jones was there on Saturday, and he and I were talking about this yesterday. There's not a whole lot you're going to get out of rookie minicamp. They're not going live. They're not wearing pads. Any major storyline would probably be a bad thing, but what you do get out of this is
no news is good news
in this case. What you do get out of it is it's a chance to see the guys in person. It's a chance to talk to them. We had Zoomed them right after their names were called in the draft, but this is the first time that they were at the podium fielding questions from local reporters. Again, as I mentioned, you see them in person. So 2 things that caught my eye. Xavier Worthy is just as fast as he was sold to be. A lot of guys said that today too. Phillip Brooks, the K-State wide receiver, said, I thought I was fast, and then I saw Xavier Worthy in person, and I was like, I got some work to do. Another thing that caught my eye, Wiley, the new tight end that the Chiefs drafted. is listed at 6'6", and he's a true 6'6". That's something that you can't see really on film, but in person, you're like, okay, that guy is as advertised. So, again, 74 guys were there, including the 7 most recent draftees, some, unsigned free agents, a few veterans that were coming back just to kind of fill numbers. So it was a mix of things. They were wearing shells. They weren't doing any contact drills. So, you take where you can get with that. But for the guys at the podium, they were really excited to be there. It kind of feels like Scott, I use this analogy with Neil. I went to Shawnee Mission West in town, and the first day of school in high school was just like the freshman only day. So none of the upperclassmen were there. You just kind of got to walk around, get a feel, get a layout of the school and that kind of thing without the scary upperclassmen there. That's like the equivalent of what rookie minicamp is. They get to be with the coaches, run through some drills, kind of get a lay of the land, see practice formats, check out the locker room, walk around the facilities without everyone else being there. So
without being hazed, without fear of being thrown into a locker like a freshman in high school.
So I mean, good opportunity to see them there. OTAs start up in about 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks from today. And then what we're most excited for, of course, is training camp later this summer. That's when we get full pads, full contact, and you really get to get kind of more of a picture of what these depth charts are going to look like.
So, first of all, did we find out definitively whether it is Xavier Worthy or Xavier Worthy?
That's the one day Neil was there. So we get to pick.
Okay.
I think it's Xavier Worthy, but we'll find out. That's kind of the fun part. Last season, we didn't know Reiss.
It took us
Andy
most
Reid,
of
Patrick
training camp.
Mahomes,
Yeah.
and Reiss were saying his name in different ways. So that's another fun part. That's when Louis
Reiss
Zanet.
It's Zamet?
The first thing they said when he walked up is, "Can we get a name pronouncer?" So that's a big part of our.
So it's Zamet.
It is Zamet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So my
I thought it was Louis. A lot of people were saying Louis.
I did know it was Louis. I did not know it was Zamet. My go-to story with this athlete name pronunciation thing is during my ESPN days, and I'm not sure you remember a pitcher named Roy Oswalt, but he was a really good pitcher, all-star pitcher for the Astros. And for probably the first year and a half of his major league career, he was Roy Oswalt, Oswalt, and he was Oswalt on every sports show and every highlight. His mom called the ESPN newsroom and told the assignment desk that everybody's pronouncing it wrong, and it's actually Oswalt. And from then on, we all got it right.
That's
so
sweet.
So there you go.
There you go.
So perhaps Xavier Worthy's mother will give us a call and let us know
if you're
whether.
watching. Yeah. Please let us know.
Speaking of Louis Reiss Zamet.
Yep, Zamet, yes.
I mean, this is such a cool story,
It
and
is.
I've been saying since they signed him that on day one of training camp, there are going to be more cameras at this guy's locker than like anybody else's, just because of the novelty of a Welsh rugby player being signed by the two-time defending world champs.
Yeah.
Did you get to see him work out at all? Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, and so we signed to a 3-year deal too, which is pretty cool. He's part of this.
Which means he's making the team.
Right. Yeah. So he's part of this international program that kind of the NFL fosters to get talent in from other countries. And he was the real deal. I don't know how many people closely follow international rugby. I was not one of them. But, I mean, he's listed as clocking a 24.2 mile per hour sprint in a rugby game, which is unbelievable. I mean, to put that into perspective, that would have beaten any rush time in the NFL last season. So listed as the real deal. He has the nickname of Reiss Lightning in Wales, which I love. That's good.
I might have been called that at times.
That's cool. Well,
in high school. I'm just saying.
Once or twice. Oh, Reiss. Yeah. I was like, what a weird.
Seriously?
That's not your name.
Yeah, no.
Yes,
Yeah, it is.
Scott Reiss Lightning. Well, you have a new KCTV5 Sports nickname too. But so yeah, I mean, he got reps with the running backs. He kind of talked about how he wants to be a little bit versatile and maybe play a little bit receiver. He was listed as in the running backs room for rookie training camp. Maybe he'll be more of a kind of play action guy. But he said, I'm sticking in the right now. My job right now is to make the roster. How am I going to do that? And the biggest thing is learning the playbook. I mean, he said in rugby, you're running like 20 to 30 plays per game. In football, a little bit more than that. Yeah, math for you. So that's the biggest thing is you think about all these guys at rookie minicamp trying to prove that they have the athleticism, they have the skill set, they understand the game. And then you have a guy learning the game from scratch. I mean, he's never played in an organized football game. Think about that. Like, never played in an organized football game. And now he's at rookie minicamp, getting ready for OTAs, signing a 3-year deal with the Chiefs. So 5 players. This program, the IPP program, which is what kind of brought him to the States and to the NFL, has been around since 2017. I think 36 guys have been a part of it, and 5 of them have made active rosters. So big challenge ahead for him, but he has the athleticism, he has the skill set. It'll just be interesting to see, can he pick up American football and this Chiefs system? Actually, the Chiefs are a big part of why he came. He said, this coaching staff, if there's any coaching staff in the world that can teach you how to play American football and do it well, it's going to be here in Kansas City.
Yeah, it's funny because I went through this drill about 5 years ago when Jared Hayne signed with the 49ers, and a very similar story, Australian rules football player. He was Australian, not Welsh, but same deal, a guy who they figured, well, maybe part running back, part receiver, part kick returner, and got a whole lot of publicity during the preseason, made the roster, and he played sparingly during the regular season. I don't remember if he was still there in year 2 or not, but so I've seen this movie before, and it's something that will, to say captivate is probably hyperbole, but it's going to be really interesting throughout training camp to watch his progress. Because let's be honest, a lot of training camp isn't that interesting.
Yeah.
But this will be.
The grind of the days gets you. But certainly he kind of has the underdog story of, again, having never played football to trying to make the roster here. But I think, if there's an opportunity for him, 100% it's going to come at special teams. So that'll be his bread and butter come training camp. But, it's going to come down to how quickly he can pick up the playbook.
So last week, one of the big stories in Chiefs world was the decision not to pick up the 5th-year option on Kadarius Toney. Now, either they waited until the last possible minute to make this decision, or it just wasn't reported until the last possible minute, because literally 30 of the 32 teams had made the call and were in the books, and were like waiting around at 6:30, and it was the Chiefs and the Saints were the only 2 teams that had not officially made the call. Kadarius Toney's story, well documented. It's a conundrum, to say the least. First-round pedigree, ton of athleticism and talent. You see when he has the ball in his hands that he can make defenders miss in space, and that's obviously such a precious skill in the NFL. But there's the drops, there's the bonehead plays. There was the sort of off-field drama. Is he hurt, isn't he hurt last year, and didn't play at all down the stretch and then into the playoffs. So he now has to prove himself again, and I guess the question becomes, will he rededicate himself to that end and try to prove himself as a guy who is worthy of that roster spot come training camp, because he's another one who's going to be under the microscope come July.
Yeah, not getting picked up didn't surprise me. I would have been surprised if the Chiefs did pick up his 5th-year option. But that said, I mean, the only inkling in me that was like, well, maybe they actually do it was Andy Reid and Brett Veach were talking really, really highly of him this offseason. I think it was Veach that said, he's the most talented guy on our roster. And, we saw that. That's why he was a first-round pick. That's why I think a lot of people are disappointed in his output, is because he has the talent, he has the skill set, but it, for some reason, just hasn't clicked and come together yet. Obviously, injuries have been an issue. Our friend Adam Teicher with ESPN mentioned on our broadcast version of the show fairly recently that he was, on the injured list, was it 19 of the 21
19
season?
of the 22 games,
yeah,
something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so that's an obvious, hamper. You're not going to be your best with 19 out of 22 weeks spent on the injured list. But, a lot of the issues seem to be, as you mentioned, just kind of like mental lapses. I mean, I think about the was it the Bills game where he lined up offsides, which,
right.
I mean,
that is the quintessential mental lapse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, given what happened on that play and the touchdown and the lateral. And
yeah. And there were a couple, drop passes. Chiefs led the league in drop passes during the regular season, and I think he was probably the poster child of that issue for this team. So, I'm rooting for him. We need a wide receiver to step up this season. He has the explosive talent. He has the route running ability. I mean, we've seen him in open space. He's extremely dangerous. I think about the return he had against the Eagles in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Right.
So
and a touchdown.
And a touchdown in that game. We forget that. So hopefully he can piece it all piece it all together this season. And really, the opportunity is his for the taking, right? I mean, that's not the deepest room in the NFL. The Chiefs need a couple guys in that wide receiver room to step up this season. We don't know what's happening with the Rashee Rice situation, facing a potential suspension. We haven't had anything official come down on that yet. So, again, opportunities his for the taking. Would love to see him take advantage of that and show the Chiefs, hey, you should have picked up my option, and see what they do next offseason.
Yeah, and I think, for the second straight season, it looks like wide receiver is going to be a consistent headline with this team, not just in training camp, but into the regular season, because they have a first-round rookie with, unlimited speed and potential in this offense, but he is still a first-round rookie, and, I don't think anybody's going to know what to expect from him out of the gate in his rookie season. And then you have the Rashee Rice situation looming, where I think we all kind of feel like he's going to miss games, whether it's 4 or 6 or who knows what, but there is a very likely suspension coming. And so when does that come? Is it the beginning of the year? Is it the middle of the year? We're going to be talking about this, from the jump. And you throw in Kadarius Toney as an X factor. And outside of all that, you have the signing of Hollywood Brown, who I think people have already forgotten that the Chiefs added him. And he has to be, especially when you consider everything I just mentioned. I think Marquise Brown has to be a big part of the game plan from day one.
Yeah, 100%. And, this is the first time Veach has picked a wide receiver in the first round, which I think just kind of lends more proof to how much they're emphasizing this position this offseason. The signing of Hollywood Brown is massive. You lose MVS, who wasn't super productive in the regular season, but he was very productive in the postseason, was a big part of the Chiefs' Super Bowl run. So, if anything, I hope guys like Xavier Worthy, it's difficult for rookies on the offensive side of the ball in this system to get significant snaps.
Which is why I think we have to temper expectations for at least the start of the season with Xavier Worthy.
Think about Rashee Rice last season. I mean, his role was kind of limited. They were giving him some targets, and then it was pretty exponential towards
came quickly.
Week 7 or 8. It really started to ramp up. So I expect to see that again. But if anything, you just want more options to give Rashee Rice, give Travis Kelce a little bit more space, because last season it felt like at a certain point, with all the drops that they were having between MVS and Kadarius Toney, you're seeing double and triple teams on Kelce and on Rashee Rice, so it kind of clogs things up. So that would be my hope here, is to just get some more weapons in this offense, that even if the production numbers aren't crazy, they're at least able to run their routes really well and kind of create some openings for other guys in this offense.
Right. All right, so hang on. I got to move the this is all going to become second nature. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so kind of a bummer for the Royals this weekend. They got to a point as of Friday night after the win, they were a half game out of first place. And then Saturday, I went to the game, and they got blown out by them. It was just awful.
I was going to ask you how that went, but I'm
I took my son, and they're down 7-0, and you're like, okay, this is all. And it was cold. It was cold and windy and uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm not lasting 9 innings tonight. And then it wound up being 14-1 or 14-2, whatever it was.
Ugly.
So that's obviously no fun. But then you come back on Sunday, and this is one of those games where, in the context of, where we are right now, 5 weeks into the season, you're like, that's one you really want back. You're up 2-0. You get Daniel Lynch called up for a spot start, whose ERA in the minors was like 5-something. And he twirls 5 scoreless innings. Bobby Witt instrumental in both runs. You're up 2-0 after 7, and the bullpen has been so good. And you have your closer on the mound, and James McArthur, and he gives up 1 in the 8th. Well, it was not McArthur in the 8th, but it was 1 in the 8th, and McArthur comes in. It's 2-1 in the 9th, and he gives up a line drive. It was about the shortest home run you can possibly hit in a major league stadium. That was that much over the wall off the foul pole by Jonah Heim, but it still counts. That ties the game, and then they score in the 10th. So 1 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th, 1 in the 10th. And you lose 3-2, and you're like, man, that's when you'd like back. To be able to take 2 of 3 at home against the defending World Series champion Rangers would have felt pretty good, and now it's like, no, that stunk.
Yeah, kind of deflated the excitement balloon, I think, in Kansas City a little bit. But, got a good series coming up here against the Brewers in an early time tonight.
Yes.
A reminder on that with the anticipated weather coming in here, that 6:10 first pitch.
They moved first pitch, which means, they're already in pregame, and hope to get it in before the skies open up again.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or are you over this whole
It has been
rain
so
thing?
soggy this weekend too. Even the current game, which I see is on our
Yes.
our agenda coming up here, but in Houston, it was a 4-hour halftime. They played the first half. They went into the locker room. 4-hour halftime, to the point of where they were playing cards, like just trying to get this thing going. Ended up finishing it out, and got an early goal with a 4-hour halftime. It's hard to imagine not getting cold. So the Dash came in and I know, crazy, but came in and scored a goal kind of late, and the Current tied things up, or I guess the Dash tied things up, and Current left with a tie. Could have been a win, but so kind of a disappointing finish down there. But while we're on soccer, the Current's still unbeaten.
But they're still
7 games in.
unbeaten.
Yeah.
I mean, this is such a good story.
Yeah.
And obviously, ducktailing off of the new stadium, I mean, what a year for this to happen.
Yeah.
For them to still be undefeated now as we're getting toward, the second week in May. And I know on the TV side, we're going to be doing a lot more in the coming weeks, with their hot start. But yeah, it's fun to watch. And what's cool about it is this is a very different roster than what we saw a year ago. And yet, I mean, to say they haven't missed a beat, is an understatement, because it's like this just wave of talent that they've brought in. Bia and Temwa Chawinga and some of these women who just, I mean, you talk about an immediate impact.
Yeah.
And this is with Dabinia and Lola Banta, who have been hurt most of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. On the flip side of that coin, Sporting, pretty disappointing finish on Saturday. They were playing the Western Conference leaders over at Real Salt Lake. Kept them neck and neck, and then they scored on a free kick. And, Sporting, kind of the other side of that coin, they haven't won since March now. They got off to a really slow start last season.
A lot of draws.
Yeah, yeah. They they were winless through 10 games last season and ended up surging back to make the playoffs in an unbelievable story. So, you can't hit the panic button yet, but you kind of hit the, all right, let's get this thing moving button. Again, tough competition on the road against the Western Conference leaders on Saturday. Played them well through, I think it was 71 minutes, and then ended up giving one up there.
Yeah. And, the narrative for weeks was, we're fine because we're winning or we are ahead in every single game and just have trouble closing, and they give up a tying goal week in and week out. But at least then you feel like, hey, it's okay, because, we're up 3-2 or 2-1 in every game. We just got to figure out how to defend the last 15 minutes and we'll be fine. Last couple of weeks, that hasn't been the case. They just flat out lost. And so there does seem to be a little bit of back to the drawing board going on for a team that honestly is really talented and should be better than this. So hopefully, last year they waited until August to really, get their mojo and make that crazy late playoff run. Hopefully they don't wait till midsummer this season to do that.
No.
But anyway, all right. Well, I look to the right of the screen there. That's the end of our mini rundown.
Oh, wow. And show one is in
which
the
means
books.
we have navigated the first installment of the streaming edition of KC Sports Tonight. So yeah, we're going to be here 5:30 Monday through Friday. We will still be over on the TV side on the weekends. That hasn't changed. So 10:30 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Jared Kohler will host that most nights. It'll be the two of us, Neil Jones and Jared, sort of rotating in on this 5:30 show. It'll be Neil tomorrow, and then you're back Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yep.
I believe so.
Yes.
No,
Thursday.
you're back Thursday.
Yeah. I'll add this. Send us your questions. Both of our emails are online. We have this little topic list on the right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking at the screen. So send us your topics, send us your questions, especially as we get into the Chiefs offseason here. Again, we're at these availabilities that aren't open to the public, so we're kind of seeing some stuff that you might not be able to. So, just get involved, and this should be a lot of fun.
We'll get more interactive as we go. It's baby steps here because, like I said, you can't see all the equipment that I have to master, but it's well beyond my
It looks like you're flying an
current
airplane.
capacity.
Yeah.
So, it does look like you're flying an airplane. But if I press one button here, we're going off the air. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.